Video, we will be exploring two of the most fundamental concepts in backend engineering: authentication and authorization. These processes are the backbone of any secure web application. The simplest way to think about it is that it answers the question, who are you? When you log into an app or website, the system needs to verify your identity before allowing you to access anything. Authentication is all about answering the question, who are you? It's the process of verifying your identity before granting access to the system. As we discussed earlier, this can be done through multiple methods such as username and password, biometrics like fingerprint or facial recognition. OAuth stands for Open Authorization Framework. Let's talk about it because it can handle these processes in a secure and user-friendly way. So resource owner is basically you, the user. You are the person who wants to own the data that app wants to access. For example, if you are using Google tool. Hey there everyone, welcome back to Prep Train, the channel where we help you master the world of backend engineering one step at a time. If you are new here, I am Sahib Kumar and I am thrilled to have you here with us today. Here at Prep Train, our goal is simple: to help you learn, grow and tackle the most important concepts in backend development. Whether you are a college student, a fresher or someone looking to sharpen your skills, this channel is all about breaking down complex topics into bite-sized practical tips that you can actually use. In today's video, we are diving into one of the most crucial topics in backend development: authentication and authorization. These two processes form the foundation of secure web applications, ensuring that users can perform their tasks while keeping sensitive data protected. Why is this important? Imagine a world where anyone could access or modify your personal data. Sounds like chaos, right? That's why understanding authentication and authorization is a must for anyone working in web development or using modern web application. Before we dive in, make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you don't miss out any of our upcoming videos. Your support not only keeps you updated but also help us in creating high quality content for learners like you. This video is packed with valuable insights, real world example and practical steps to help you understand these concepts thoroughly. And trust me, by the end of it, you will have a clear grasp of how these processes secure the backend of systems you use every day. Alright, let me just grab my deck and then we will start exploring authentication and authorization in detail. Okay, so in this video, we will be exploring two of the most fundamental concepts in backend engineering: authentication and authorization. These processes are the backbone of any secure web applications and are responsible for ensuring that our data remains protected while allowing us to perform the actions we need to. Let's start by understanding what these terms mean. Authentication is all about verifying your identity, essentially proving that you are who you are claiming to be. Think of it like a concert where you need to show your ticket to enter. The ticket acts as a proof that you are supposed to be there. In backend system, this could be your username and password, or even biometric data like your fingerprint or facial recognition. On the other hand, authorization comes into play once you are inside the venue. So it's about determining whether you are allowed to access the VIP lounge or are you restricted only to the general public section. In this digital world, this is where permissions and role come into play. For example, a regular user might not only have permission to view or post the content, but admin can actually delete or modify the other user's data. These two processes are often confused, but they serve very different purpose. Authentication answers the question, who are you? And authorization answers, what are you allowed to do? To make this more clear, let's use a simple analogy. Imagine you are going to a concert. First, you show your ticket to prove that you are supposed to be there. That is authentication. Once you are inside, your wristband or pass determines whether you can go inside a particular section, let's say a VIP section or not, and whether you can access backstage or you just can stay in the general audience queue. So that is authorization. In the detail world, these concepts are critical because they help secure data and ensure that user can only access what they are supposed to. Without them, anyone could do anything, which would be a nightmare for security. Now let's focus on authentication. The simplest way to think about is that it answers the question, who are you? When you log into an app or website, the system needs to verify your identity before allowing you to access anything. This is where authentication comes in. One of the most common methods of authentication is using a username and password. You would have encountered this every time you log into social media, emails, or even your school or college portals. The username verifies that who you are and the password act as proof that you are indeed that person. But passwords aren't the only way that can be used to authenticate users. With advancement in technology, now we have more secure methods like biometrics. This include using your fingerprints, facial recognition, or even voice recognition to verify your identity. And these methods are much harder to compromise compared to traditional password. Another interesting method is using tokens. If you have ever used two-factor authentication, you would have encountered tokens. After entering your password, the system sends a one-time code, or let's say OTP, to your phone or email, which you need to input to complete the login. This adds an extra layer of security, ensuring that even if someone steals your password, they still won't be able to log in without the token. So the key takeaway here is that authentication ensures who you are and who you claim to be, and is the first line of defense in the security of any backend system. Next, we will move on to authorization, where we will discuss how system decides what you can do once you have been authenticated. Okay, so now that you have authenticated yourself, the system basically needs to determine that what actions you are allowed to perform. This is where authorization comes to play. In simple terms, authorization answers the question, what can you do? Authorization is all about roles and permissions. For example, when you log into Instagram, you are allowed to post photos, like comments, and view your own feed. But if you try to delete someone else's account, you wouldn't be able to. Why? Because you're not having the necessary permission. This is a great example of role-based access control. In most systems, users are assigned different roles, and each role comes with a specific set of permissions. A regular user might only have access to certain features, while an admin has more control over the system. This is a critical part of keeping systems secure, as it prevents unauthorized users from accessing sensitive data or performing actions they should not. Let's take another example. So in a corporate environment, an employee in the finance department might have access to financial reports, but they wouldn't be having access to HR records. Similarly, someone in HR wouldn't have access to the financial data. This segmentation ensures that only the right people have access to the right information. In the digital world, authorization is absolutely essential for maintaining security. It prevents users from performing actions that could harm the system or expose sensitive data. Next, we will do a quick recap of how authentication and authorization work together to secure backend systems. Now that we have covered both authentication and authorization, let's take a moment to quickly recap the differences between the two, because they are often confused but serve distinct role in backend security. First off, authentication is all about answering the question, who are you? It's the process of verifying your identity before granting access to a system. As we discussed earlier, this can be done through multiple methods such as username and password, biometrics like fingerprint or facial recognition, or even tokens through multi-factor authentication. On the other hand, authorization deals with what you can do once you have been authenticated. It answers the question what you are allowed to do. For example, after logging into Instagram, you can post a photo or like a comment, but you can delete someone else's account. So this is because you don't have the authorization or the necessary permission to perform that action. So let's think of it as a two-step process. So authentication verifies your identity, making sure that you are who you are claiming to be, and authorization checks what you are allowed to do on the basis of your role or the permission granted to you. Both of these processes are absolutely critical for securing any system. Without authentication, anyone could pretend to be anyone else, and without authorization, there would be no control over what users can do once they are logged in. Now that we have recapped the differences, we are going to dive into a tool that makes managing both authentication and authorization easier: OAuth. So, OAuth stands for Open Authorization Framework. Let's talk about it because it can handle these processes in a secure and user-friendly way. So it's a framework basically that allows third-party apps to access some of your data without needing your password. You have probably encountered OAuth without even realizing it. And if you have ever clicked login with Google or login with Facebook button on a website, that's basically OAuth in action. But why we use OAuth? Well, the main reason is security. Instead of sharing your password with every app or website that you use, OAuth allows these apps to access limited information about you, like your name, email, without ever seeing your login credentials. So this means that even if the app is compromised, your main account, like your Google account or your Facebook account, it will remain secure. So how does this work? Let's break it down into a simple flow. The user, wants to log into a third party app, let's say a fitness app, and you want to use your Google account. So the fitness app known as the client sends a request to the Google authentication server, and Google asks you for permission to share certain details with the fitness app, like your name, email, the profile picture. If you agree, the Google sends an access token to the fitness app, which allows it to access the requested information without ever needing your Google password. It's important to note that OAuth does not gives the app full access to your Google account. It only shares the information you are allowed, and the app only keeps the token, not your password. So this makes OAuth a secure and efficient way to manage login credentials across multiple services. Next, we will dive deeper into key components that make up the OAuth framework. Now, let's break down the key components that make the OAuth work, and understanding these roles will help you get a clear picture of how secure access is managed across different apps and services. So we have basically four components: resource owner, client, authorization, and access token. So resource owner is basically you, the user. You are the person who wants to own the data that app wants to access. For example, if you are using Google to log into a fitness app, you own the data, like the email address or profile picture that Google controls. Client is basically the app or the service that wants to access your data. In our example, the fitness app is the client. It does not store your password or login credential. Instead, it relies on OAuth to securely access the data it needs. Authorization server is the system responsible for verifying your identity and issuing tokens. In most cases, this is the service you are using to log in, such as Google or Facebook or Twitter. The authorization server checks whether you have given permission to the client, that is basically the fitness app, to access your data. And access token is basically like a digital key that the authorization server gives to the client. The client uses this token to access the specific data that you have allowed. And the important thing to note here is that the access token is temporary and limited. It does not give the app full control over your account, just access to the data that you have approved. These components work together to create a secure process for sharing limited information between services without compromising your main account. For example, when you log into a website using Google, the website gets a token that allows access to your basic profile information, but not your email or password. Understanding this component is crucial for anyone working in backend development, as OAuth is widely used across web applications to manage secure access. It's a system that balances convenience with security, making it easier for users to log in while keeping their sensitive information safe. Next, we will look at some common use case where OAuth is used in real world applications. So, where do we see OAuth in action? You will be surprised. It's everywhere. Social media login is one of the most familiar example in logging into services, like basically by using Google, Facebook, or Twitter account. For instance, when you click login with Google on a website, OAuth is the framework that allows the website to access your basic profile information without needing your actual Google password. This makes the login process faster and safer, as the website never sees your password. Streaming services, platforms like Netflix and Spotify, they also use OAuth to manage authentication and authorization. When you log into Netflix using your Gmail account, OAuth allows basically Netflix to access your profile and other relevant data to personalize your experience. In many of the online banking or financial apps, OAuth is being securely used to link your bank account to your profile. So for example, like let's say budgeting app like Mint use OAuth to access your bank transaction without ever needing your banking password. So this ensures that even if the budgeting app is compromised, your bank account remains secure. The common thread across all of these examples is that OAuth allows for secure, controlled access to your data without exposing sensitive information like password. It's an elegant solution that balances user convenience with security. In the next slide, we will summarize the key points we have covered about authentication, authorization, and OAuth. So let's wrap everything with a quick summary of what we have learned in this video about all these three things. First, we started with the concept of authentication. This is the process of verifying who you are, whether you are entering your username, password, scanning your fingerprint, or using facial recognition. Authentication ensures that only the correct person is accessing the system. Then we looked at authorization. This part comes after authentication and determines what you are allowed to do within the system. So just because you have authenticated doesn't mean that you have access to everything. Authorization controls what actions you can perform based on your role or permissions. Finally, we introduce OAuth, which is a framework that allows apps to securely access limited user data without needing password. It is a widely used system that makes logging into third-party apps easier and more secure. OAuth uses token to grant access to specific resources, ensuring that sensitive data like passwords are never exposed. By understanding these concepts, you are gaining a foundational knowledge of how modern web applications manage security. Whether you are a developer building backend system or just someone curious about how apps work, these are essential concepts in the world of web development. That brings us to the end of this video. Thank you so much for sticking around till the end. We covered a lot today, from understanding the differences between authentication and authorization to exploring tools like OAuth that makes managing secure systems easier. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you are new here, make sure to subscribe to Prep10 Telegram channel and hit the bell icon so that you can stay updated with all of our future videos. Your support truly helps us grow and continue providing valuable content for learners like you. And also, don't miss out on joining the Prep10 Telegram community. Here you can get all the latest updates on job opportunities, internships, and much more. The link is in the description and be sure to join us there. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next video where we will be continuing exploring more exciting topics in backend engineering. Until then, keep learning and keep growing.